I'd like to call the council meeting for April 17th, 2018 to order. City Clerk, will you please call roll?
Councilmember Vega.
Here.
Councilmember Starbuck.
Present.
Councilmember Mosby.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Janelle Osborne.
Here.
Mayor Bob Lingle.
Excused absence. He's at the NCPA conference representing our city. I would like to invite Pastor Bernie Fetterman forward for our invocation. Please rise.
Our God, what an honor to call upon you on behalf of the city that many of us love, and to pause and give you place in our lives and in this meeting. We invoke your wisdom and your grace to assist our city council, our city staff, and those who will speak and participate in this meeting tonight. Thanks for your continued love, your care, and your grace that you pour out upon our city. We're grateful for the places and the spaces where positive things are happening, and rejoice where neighbors helping neighbor, new places of employment emerge, and economic growth take place. We do not take these things for granted, but say thank you, God. For we know, as the wisdom of the ages teaches us, that all good things come from your hand, even our ability to dream and imagine and plan and strategize and put our hands to the plow and get things done. It's your empowerment that allows us to accomplish these things, for in you we live and move and have our being. Thank you, God, too, that you take broken people, fragmented people, and make something beautiful out of them. Protect those who protect us, our police and our fire personnel, who see and deal with things that very few of us really know or understand. Thank you for those who serve to provide our city with power and water and recreation and services that add quality to our lives. And I would ask tonight, God, that you would comfort the family and friends of recently retired Lompoc Fire Captain Carl Edwards, who at this very moment, is on life support. He has served this city faithfully with great dedication. He himself has saved many lives and property. So we ask your grace upon his family and his friends, upon those who served with him in the past, and upon our current Lompoc Fire Department family. Where there is darkness, send us your light. Where there's bitterness and hatred, send us all to extend your grace. Where there's crime and vandalism and people who mean no good and are up to no good, may they be exposed. Give this council the wisdom to make decisions as they well know, not for today, but for decades to come. And God, I just ask you again to provide your grace and your strength upon all of us. In your mighty name I pray. Amen.
Please remain standing and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America,
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Tonight we have a few proclamations. The first is for Donate Life California Month. Do we have a representative? Please come forward. Whereas organ tissues, marrow, and blood donations are life-giving acts recognized worldwide as expressions of compassion to those in need, and more than 114,000 individuals nationwide and more than 21,000 in California are currently on national organ transplant waiting lists, and on average, 20 people die each day while waiting due to the shortage of donated organs. And whereas more than 600,000 units of blood per year are needed to meet the need in California, and at any given time, 6,000 patients are in need of volunteer marrow donors. Also, the need for donated organs is especially urgent in the Hispanic and African American communities. And whereas a single individual's donation of the heart, lungs, liver, kidneys, pancreas, and small intestines can save up to 8 lives, donations of tissue can save and heal the lives of more than 75 others. And a single blood donation can help 3 people in need. And whereas millions of lives each year are saved and healed by donors of organs, tissues, marrow, and blood, and the spirit of giving and decision to donate are not restricted by age or medical condition. And whereas California residents can sign up with the Donate Live California Donor Registry when applying for or renewing their driver's license or ID cards at the California Department of Motor Vehicles. Over 14 million Californians have signed up with the state-authorized Donate Live California Donor Registry to ensure their wishes to be organ, eye, and tissue donors are honored. Now, therefore, I, Janelle Osborne, Mayor Pro Tem of the City of Lompoc, California, do hereby proclaim the month of April 2018 as DMV Donate Live California Month in the City of Lompoc, and encourage all Californians to check yes when applying for or renewing their driver's license or ID card, or by signing up at donatelivecalifornia.org or donevidacalifornia.org.
Thank you. I'm Scott Burns. I'm alive because somebody put a pink dot on their driver's license. About 3 years ago, I got a new kidney, so I'm very grateful for that. I get to live and enjoy life. 3 or 4 weeks ago, my mom celebrated her 100th birthday. Got to be there to celebrate that. One thing I want you to keep in mind of all the things I talk about is 20 people die every day in the United States because there's not enough people waiting for organs. So please look at it very seriously to put a pink dot on your driver's license. I'm alive because a nurse at Cottage Hospital put a pink dot on her driver's license. I come to Lompoc Hospital about 3 times a year giving presentations to the nursing staff just to remind people how easy it is to do that. I mentioned I'm alive to celebrate exciting things. My son, who's 25, he's been living with a girl for about a year. They've been going out for about 5 years. He called a couple months ago with a really big announcement, and I'm alive to hear that they got a new cat. Thank you.
I have a pink dot on my card as a result of my family having to make a difficult decision regarding my father-in-law, who helped save nearly 20 people's lives from his donation of organs. So I fully support this. I have a pink dot on my driver's license. I encourage everyone to have that thought and consideration and do the same, because you never know whose life you might save or when they might be introduced to a cat. So the next proclamation, I'd like to invite representatives from AAUW to come forward so that we can proclaim this High School Voter Education Weeks. Whereas California's Secretary of State, who serves as the state's chief elections official, issued a resolution on the 16th of March 2018 to encourage all California high schools to participate in California High School Voter Education Weeks, April 16th through the 27th of 2018. And whereas on the 26th of March, the State Superintendent of Public Instruction of the California Department of Education and the California Secretary of State issued a joint letter which encouraged all county and district superintendents and high school principals to observe High School Voter Education Weeks on April 16th through the 27th to put students on the path to a lifetime of civic engagement and voting. And whereas young people play a critical role in our democracy by helping to choose the people who will lead us and by voicing their opinions on those issues that are important to them. And whereas 16 and 17-year-olds can now pre-register to vote and then automatically become active voters once they turn 18. And whereas the Lompoc-Vandenberg chapter of the American Association of University Women is supporting voter registration at high schools in Lompoc during California High School Voter Education Weeks. And whereas students are encouraged to participate in our democracy through civics and voter education programs, volunteering as poll works, and by encouraging their peers, family, members, and community to register to vote and participate in elections. Now, therefore, I, Janelle Osborne, Mayor Pro Tem of the City of Lompoc of California, do hereby proclaim April 16th through the 27th, 2018 as High School Voter Education Weeks, and that the City of Lompoc join the Secretary of State and the State Superintendent of Public Instruction of the California Department of Education in encouraging high schools in Lompoc to participate in California High School Voter Education Week, and further encourage all eligible Lompoc youth to register and vote.
Thank you.
Thank you. Please.
AAUW is very pleased and happy to support the California Education Weeks at the high schools. The chapter will be at Lompoc High starting tomorrow and Thursday and Friday, speaking to students and having students engage students in terms of pre-registration of 16 and 17-year-olds and registration of 18-year-olds. And for the 16 and 17-year-olds, as soon as they get their 18th birthday, they're automatically eligible because of pre-registration. That's new in California. The following week, we'll be at Cabrillo High School doing the same thing, outreach to students and engaging students and helping them through the registration process. All of these are going to be voters who will have their voice heard in the future, so that's an exciting time. And finally, we'll be at Maple on May the 2nd to register and assist in the registration of the students at Maple. So I appreciate the quick action to have this resolution read during the operative period of the 26th of April through the beginning of May. And we'll be doing it again in September in line with the state. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Good evening. Along with AAUW, the March for Our Lives Action Committee is continuing to work with the student speakers that were at the march, and they have formed groups on their school campuses, and we'll be working to set up voter registrations and are learning how to do this through the materials that are available through March for Our Lives. And the Lompoc Democratic Club is going to be publicizing consistent hours that we will be open for voter registration for any party. Thank you.
Before we close this section, did Sarah Michaels arrive? I don't see her. If she arrives, we will bring her up. She is a Queen candidate who asked for some time to present to our community, but she has not arrived yet, so we'll go back to our normal agenda from here. City Manager, do you have anything to report?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem and members of council. This weekend, we have several events coming up. One is the Vintners Festival Grand Tasting on Saturday from 1 to 4 p.m. at River Park. And I just want to share with the community that Colt Route 1, the Red Line, will be adding a special stop at the park, so festival goers don't have to drive. And in exchange for the city's sponsorship, we did receive 20 event passes and 10 Vintners visas that allow free tastings at participating wineries. And we'll be distributing packets of 4 event passes and the 2 Vintners visas to each council member so that you can use those tickets or share them as you'd like. And if you don't want them, that's fine, just let me know. Other events this weekend include the local Spring Fest in Ryan Park this Friday and Saturday, another great tradition, and there is a beautification committee project as well this weekend on Saturday, starting at 8 a.m. in the morning. So a lot going on. On another note, I asked Sarah Blau to please come up during this time and share with you a brief presentation on some recent action that the County Board of Supervisors took that affects all libraries throughout the county, including ours in Lompoc and the library in the village.
Sorry, technical difficulty.
Sorry about that. Okay, thank you for giving me a few minutes tonight to talk about this. So the county library system consists of 3 zones. Zone 1 is Santa Barbara zone, which includes Buellton, Solvang, Goleta, Montecito, and Carpinteria. Zone 2 is Lompoc, which includes the village library. And Zone 3 is Santa Maria, which includes Orchid, Guadalupe, Los Alamos, and Cuyama. All 3 library zones are run by the library directors of Santa Barbara, Lompoc, or Santa Maria. And we each have 3 different ways of handling issues that arise, including how allocated costs are charged to each of the libraries we administer. So in February 2017, the city of Goleta, their city council voted to create a municipal library, in part because of how costs were charged from the administering library of Zone 1, which is Santa Barbara. And at that time, county staff decided to review the way each library zone allocates the county funding. On October 17, 2017, the Santa Barbara County Board of Supervisors directed county staff to engage a library consultant to evaluate the current county library service delivery system and funding model and recommend improvements to the system and/or alternate service delivery methods for the county to consider. After several months of interviewing the library zones and their various stakeholders, the consultant presented their recommendations to the County Board of Supervisors on April 3rd, 2018. The interim city manager was aware of these recommendations as I had shared them with her. As none of the models presented or the Library Advisory Committee's recommendations appeared to negatively affect Zone 2, no action was needed at the time. But at the meeting of April 3rd, 2018, the Board of Supervisors voted to do the following. First, to create Zone 4, which is Goleta, and to include Buellton and Solvang by July 2019. Of the county funding received, that no more than 20% can be charged as administration fees. And the third thing they did was currently funding is based on per capita. So we receive $7.80 per resident. After looking at various funding models presented by the consultant to possibly include factors such as circulation statistics or median household income, the Board of Supervisors agreed on an option offered by one member of the LAC, which is the Library Advisory Committee, to keep the per capita at $7.80, but to give 5% of that amount to the LAC as discretionary funds. The 5% given to the LAC reduces the library funding. This action was a surprise to all of the library directors. It was not in the board letter for consideration, and it was not properly analyzed beforehand to determine what the consequences could be. As the LAC will now recommend to the Board of Supervisors how that 5% is split up, each zone will be vying for these funds. Zone 2 could receive some of the funds, but we also could receive none of them. Currently, the LAC in the 3 zones, they have 8 representatives in Zone 1, 3 representatives from Zone 3, and only 2 representatives from Zone 2. Also, the LAC is advisory and not administrative, which creates an additional level of bureaucracy. Based on last year's funding from the county, which was $515,000, a 5% reduction would be $25,785, which would affect both us and the village library. So what do we do? When emailed, George Chapchian, who is the Director of Community Services Department, and he is over the county libraries, he's the one I interact with, he indicated he was also surprised by the board's decision and recommended that the city managers speak to their county supervisors, as the 5% is a big cut to all 3 zones. Since the Lompoc Library is in the 4th district and the village library is in the 3rd district, that means contacting both Supervisors Adam and Hartman. The Santa Maria Library Director has already sent a letter to all 5 of the supervisors concerning this 5% funding reduction, and I will be doing the same. Per George Chapchian's recommendation, the city manager plans on meeting with both supervisors and will include a member of the council if you so desire. And I'm available to answer any questions you may have.
Anyone have any questions for our librarian? Thank you, Sarah, for presenting that information and those concerns. We appreciate it.
And while I have your attention really quick, I just want to bring up that May the 4th day, Star Wars Day, May the 4th be with you, is happening on Friday, May 4th. And I have invitations for each of the council members. Friday, May 4th at 3 p.m., come dressed as your favorite Star Wars character. Darth Vader always shows up, so you don't have to dress up as Darth Vader. But this is perfect because, you know, the launch is on the 5th, and that's all about space. So it's a good time to get in on this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Really tall you walk. Thank you.
Just a little housekeeping before we continue with the rest of the agenda. Just to remind you that we have public comment associated with each of the sections of our agenda. The next public comment is consent calendar only. After consent calendar is completed and the staff presentations are done, we'll have a moment for oral communications again, and that is an opportunity to speak on any topic related to city matters. And then we will have the opportunity for each of the agenda items for public comment. So I will now open up public comment on consent calendar items, and you have a maximum of 3 minutes. Please come forward if there's an issue you'd like to speak to on the consent calendar. Seeing no one rise, I will close consent calendar. The consent calendar is all items listed are considered to be routine and will be enacted after one motion in the form listed below. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless good cause is shown prior to council vote. Any items withdrawn from the consent calendar for separate discussion will be addressed immediately before the second oral communication near the end of the meeting. Is there an item that any of council would like to pull? Seeing no item being pulled, I will entertain a motion for acceptance.
I'll move we accept the consent calendar.
I'll give it a second.
And we are prepared to vote. And that passes 4-0 with 1 in absentia. Staff presentations at this time. I believe the Economic, Community, and Development staff are here to give a presentation on Lompoc Tourism Business Improvement District renewal and the Opportunity Zones.
Good evening, members of the council. So I am going to give you a quick presentation on the Lompoc Tourism Business Improvement District renewal, and I have Mr. Patel from Explore Lompoc as well here. My name is Jasmine McGinty in Economic Development. Thank you, Stacy. So just going to dive right in. So the Lompoc Tourism Business Improvement District here in Lompoc is Explore Lompoc. So here's just a couple of quick statistics on national T-bids. There's 172 total nationally in 14 different states. There's the total amount raised is about $346 million from these improvement districts. So how do TIDs work? So basically hotels pay an assessment. Here in Lompoc they pay a 2% assessment, which we'll discuss a little bit later. And that's 2% of the gross short-term rental revenue per each hotel room. That assessment is then collected by local government and then managed by the DMO. The DMO is the Destination Marketing Organization, which is Explore Lompoc here in Lompoc, and the city pretty much just collects this tax. Other than that, there is not much involvement there. So on a national TID survey, it says the destination marketing funding increased 180% after forming a tourism improvement district. 34% of those increased the rate of the assessment from the original TID amount. So in this renewal request, the original assessment is set at 2%, and it can increase to a maximum of 5% over the 10-year term. That is the proposal for the renewal. So Lompoc's T-bid is run by Visit Lompoc. also known as Explore Lompoc. You'll see their fancy logo on many things across the city. It was first created in December 2013. That when it was initially created, it was created for a 5-year term. This proposal, which we will bring back for public hearing in May, is proposed to have a 10-year life, and that will expire in December of 2028. If approved by council in May, the assessment will begin on January 1st, 2019. And on the bottom of the slide there's Explore Lompoc's mission. So the request for renewal is currently set at a 2% assessment. That assessment is paid by visitors staying at City of Lompoc hotels. There's currently 13 lodging destinations, which is found in the management district plan for the renewal. And if it is approved, it will generate approximately $360,000 annually, and that is used for promotion of travel and tourism marketing specific to Lompoc. So over the past few years, since 2013, here are some of the ways that Explore Lompoc has spent these tourism and destination marketing funds. There's just a couple of different things that they've done. They've done a lot, but these are just some of the highlights. They have granted a total of $171,000 in grants for special events since the Explore Lompoc grant program was launched. Those are a couple of the places that they partner with: Skydive Santa Barbara, the Chamber of Commerce, and the 2016-2017 grants include that list there on the side. Those are just a few things that they helped sponsor. So like I said, this renewal is proposed to have a 2% assessment, and that's of short-term rental revenue. During that term, if the VL board, Visit Lompoc board, decides to increase that, it can go up to a maximum of 5% gross short-term rental revenue. Like I said, projected at $360,000, and 85% of that is used for sales and marketing, which is approximately $306,000 annually. So just a quick timeline. Today we're giving this presentation on the TIDs. May 15th we will bring this back for a public hearing, and if the City Council decides to adopt that, then the assessment would start January 1st of 2019. So that concludes my presentation. I am available for any questions, and Mr. Patel will also be available for any questions if you have any.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Does any of the council members have any questions for staff or Mr. Patel? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And now we have a presentation on opportunity zones from the Economic and Community Development staff.
Good evening, council, staff, public. I am Christy Alarcon, the interim economic development director. Per council request, I prepared a brief informational presentation on opportunity zones in California. So, opportunity zones were established by the federal tax bill, Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017. That passed December 2017. It allows the governor to designate eligible census tracts as opportunity zones. The total number of opportunity zones the governor could designate in California was 879. And what it allows to happen, investments made by individuals through special funds in these zones would be allowed to defer or eliminate federal taxes on capital gains. These are Lompoc zones. In March 2018, state administration put a preliminary recommendation of tracts out for public comment. And these were the preliminary tracts for Lompoc. Over the course of nearly 2 weeks of public comment period, the State Department of Finance received robust public comment. City of Lompoc staff submitted comment on the census tracts in Lompoc on March 14th, 2018. There were 2 types of public comment that could be submitted. You could keep or reject a tract currently recommended for designation, or you could suggest an alternate tract. So you couldn't just ask to add more tracks. You had to take one away to add replacement, basically. So where are we at today? Governor Brown submitted his nominations, which included the 3 zones for the city of Lompoc, on March 21st. The designations were finalized April 9th by the Department of Treasury. And those zones are retained for 10 years, regardless of change in poverty rates to those census tracts. So the big question is, what now? What next? How do we get this benefit? Treasury and the IRS plan to issue additional information on qualified opportunity funds. The additional guidance will help to address the certification of opportunity funds, which are required to have at least 90% of fund assets invested in those opportunity zones. So right now we're gathering more information as it becomes available. The next webinar city staff will be participating in will be April 25th. So as I gather more information, I can always report back to you on that information or provide a memo to council, whichever way you'd like me to get that out to you. Thank you, and any questions, I'll try to answer.
Councilmember Mosby.
I know the media is not here, but have you had an opportunity to discuss this at all with the media, being that we can get it out to more people?
I'm just a little leery on that because I don't have a lot of guidance yet on, I think, how people can invest or how they could access the funds. So I'm hoping next Wednesday there'll be a little more direction, but it sounds like the IRS is kind of...
Not sure themselves yet.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Any more questions for staff? Thank you, Christy. Oh, Councilmember Starbuck.
Would it be possible at the May 1st meeting that we could get a report on the webinar from the 25th?
Sure.
I mean, I think council, what I need 3 for this.
I think you have it.
Depending how much comes out of it, I can check and see if Teresa wants it to be part of the city manager's report or if you want a
It's just something
full
I don't want us to
presentation.
fall away.
No problem.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Okay, thank you. All right, now is oral communications regarding any subject within the city limit issues. So you're more than welcome to come forward on that. If you have an issue regarding items 5 or 6, it would be more helpful to refrain till that moment unless you cannot stay for that. So oral communications are open for 3 minutes per speaker.
I'm Deb Andrews, Mission Hills. Excuse me. I am opposed to city departments illegally going over budget. I urge you to fully investigate collusion of the fire department and city personnel to flim-flam citizens out of $1 million. The mask is off, no more pretense. The $1 million overage was not requested from nor reported to City Council. City Council only became aware when they conducted a budget review. Your actions taken or not taken on this issue will reveal to citizens if the chairs on this dais are a facade to cover for the tyranny in motion at our expense. In a totalitarian state, the police and fire operate without the constraints of laws and regulations. Their actions are unpredictable and directed by their rulers. Citizens are terrorized at the prospect those who have control over our liberty and freedom work outside the law. I urge you to clean house. Get them out, those who seek to rule over us rather than serve us. By all means, retain excellent, patriotic, dedicated public servants. Grandfather in their benefits. Remove those who work to rule over us. Privatize all departments. Get the union out of Lompoc. We cannot afford their work rules, pensions, benefits, and criminal behavior. Uphold your oath of office. It is a violation of our Constitution for a government agency to take funds illegally. Citizens are prosecuted for illegal activities. absolute and oppressive single-party government in California supplants political institutions with new ones and sweeps away legal, social, and political traditions. When illegal immigrants and government agency leadership operate outside the law, it suggests we are in a transitional social state between capitalism and communism. I urge you to take appropriate action on the illegal taking of $1 million.
Next, anyone else for public comment?
I'm Sue Huseman, and I'd like to introduce my guest she was invited by the mayor to speak. She is one of my mentors, a student I'm mentoring in her senior project at Cabrillo, and she would like to address the city council. Sarah Valconi.
Good evening, councilmen, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Sarah Varkney. I'm 17 years old and currently a senior attending Cabrillo High School. I'm coming to the end of my work on my senior project. For my project, I've researched different volunteer charities, veterans organizations, and attended various meetings and events within our community. Some examples being the Chamber of Commerce, the Daughters of the American Revolution, the Rotary Foundation, and I've further volunteered several hours at Empty Bowls and even at a senior living facility. I chose to do this project because I myself wanted to become more involved in events in the community. It has truly been an amazing experience for me, and I'm so glad to have met so many intelligent people making vast changes in the community. The positivity needs to be shared on a broader level, and I'd like to thank my mentors, Sue Huseman and Frank Pickett, for putting me on the right track into a bright future. The support I've received from members all around the community has been enlightening. It is very impressive how going to one event opens up the door to many more connections and the more you become involved. Through this process, I realized that I was the only youth attending these meetings, and it strikes me that, moreover, there's a lack of opportunities for the youth in Lompoc. To my way of thinking, I believe it is vital for Lompoc to expand on programs and businesses based around the youth population because beyond shaping the environment, it will give youth a reason to stay or return and continue to build a safe and prosperous community after graduating high school or college. So I must ask, what is in store for Lompoc's 10 or 20-year plan on the engagement of its youth? That said, I'd like to bring your awareness to about 2 national and community service government funds that caught my attention: the Social Innovation Fund and the Volunteer Generation Fund. I believe both of these funds should be explored for our community as they support innovation and expand opportunities towards youth development and healthy futures. So I'd like to thank the mayor for the invitation and the opportunity to speak to the council this evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Council. Todd Mitchell. I'm a resident of Grover Beach and a potential business owner here on Ocean Avenue in Lompoc. And I'm just making a request that possibly either individually or for the next City Council meeting, there might be an update to the application review process. Initially, we were told, and it seemed very fast, that there would possibly be a 1 to 4 week turnaround time, and I've now applied 2 days shy of 6 weeks. So just interested in an update. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mitchell, are you referring to the cannabis applications?
Hello, council, staff, and public. Here I wanted to talk about consideration to support the Department of Justice lawsuit against the state of California regarding sanctuary city laws. I recommend that the mayor and city council provide direction regarding support of the Department of Justice lawsuit against the state of California related to sanctuary city laws. The Department of Justice filed a lawsuit against the state of California in regards to sanctuary city laws that, according to federal officials, interfere with their immigration authority and obstruct existing immigration laws. The lawsuit targets the following three bills passed in 2017. Assembly Bill 450 prohibits private employers from cooperating with federal immigration officials and requires that private employers notify employees in advance of potential worksite enforcement inspection. Department of Justice claims that this forces California employers to be caught between state and the federal law. Business owners, as myself here recently, could be fined $2,000 to $10,000 for failing to comply with the Assembly Bill 450. Senate Bill 54 prevents local law enforcement from providing information to federal authorities about the release date of undocumented immigrants who are in their custody and bans the transfer of these criminal immigrants to federal custody. Department of Justice claims this breaks federal law that pertains to communication between government agencies and the Immigration and Naturalization Service. Assembly Bill 103 imposes a state-run inspection and review of the federal detention of immigrants held in facilities pursuant to federal contracts and includes a review of immigration processes and the circumstances in which immigrants were apprehended. This review applies only to facilities with civil immigration detainees. Department of Justice claims this law seeks to regulate federal immigration detention, which is not allowed under the Constitution. On March 19, 2018, the Los Alamitos City Council voted 4-1 in favor of an ordinance to exempt itself from Senate Bill 54 and to file an amicus brief in support of the Department of Justice's lawsuit against the state of California. April 17th, today, they voted to final approval to exempt themselves entirely from the state sanctuary laws. April 11th, Westminster City Council voted 3-1. March 20th, Yorba Linda City Council voted 4-1. March 27th, City Council voted unanimously to approach a resolution in support of the City Council's bid to opt out. March 27th, Orange County Board of Supervisors met in closed session and voted 4-0. We'll leave it at that, but there are several other cities and counties that are fully in support of the Department of Justice. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Council. My name's Angela Mill. I'm coming back again to speak about the Classical School of Ballet and the decision that was made by 3 of the council members. Absolutely disappointed in we're a city of the arts and flowers. I've been teaching 23 years, Sue Dalton before that for 28 years. I think we do an amazing thing for the youth of Lompoc, and deeming us not a youth center based on the 2 reasons you gave. The community members are reaching out to me. All the patrons of my studio, past and present, are asking the question, why, about the decision you made, why did you not deem us a youth center? Proposition 64 clearly says, one of your reasons was, we have some adults. Yeah, we have like 5, maybe 8, and we have 90 kids. So the law says primarily youth center, so that was clear. So that we were waived, oh, you're not a youth center because you have some adults, so that's debunked. Second thing you said was hours of operation. You said some businesses, I don't know who's open 1 hour a day in Lompoc and surviving a business. I'm open anywhere from 3 to 6 hours a day, 20 to 30 hours a week, depending on the semester that we're in. Nobody asked me my hours. But in Prop 64, which my husband and I thoroughly read all 65 pages, there's not one mention of adults being an issue if it's primarily youth, and there's not one mention about time and hours of operation. So I'm asking you, you're 3 businessmen, small businessmen, why would you do this to another small business and other dance studios? The other dance studios, if the rec center closes or the other, what is it called, the Boys and Girls Club, if they somehow move or change, then you're opening up a Scooty Ballet and Alley project as well. This doesn't make any sense to me why you would go against the chief of police, who also mentioned it could be an issue. I'm not against cannabis legal businesses, but why can't you service both? Get them a place they can be and protect the barriers of youth. That's what you're in office for. You're servants to the community that votes you and has youth to support. And the very fact that three of you would not do that is just very disappointing. I have no ideas, but I would like to know, the community would like to know, what on earth are the reasons that you would go against that? I'd like to say, here's my closing, and I'm not going to listen to the timer. Let's be honest. I've refuted the two reasons, and I've demonstrated the moral and ethical responsibility to protect our young impressionable children from the negative influences of drug trade, including the criminal element, which inevitably is part of the culture. It's not the legal people, it's the people outside the business. The FBI, the DEA, and expressed by the chief of police that there is a better location that should not be near youth. By not being you're not aligning with state law, I myself, the community, demands to know on what grounds do you now refute to comply with federal and state law. I must remind you that refusal to comply with state law opens you up to legal prosecution. This was said, you went against your mayor, you went against Councilman Osborne, you went against your city attorney who deemed all of us dance studios. So I would love an answer. I don't know what the three of you have to say, but your daughter, Dawn Starbucks, said I should come and ask why. And so that's why I'm here. Why?
Thank you. Your time is up.
Thank you.
I was not going to speak because I want to be sure that I have the whole truth. And the only whole truth I know is within the experience that I've had. I was going to ask you, were you aware of what you swore to when you took the oath of office? You swore that you would vote, that you would act, you would dig deep into the facts that are being stated and hear the plea of the people who, I've been there and done that. I had to take an oath because I was a president of a nationwide organization. I wasn't the president of the national, but a local. And I know the oath that I had to take, and I'm sure it included the oath that all five of you took. And I'm demanding that you recall, and if you can't remember what, or you were unaware of what you were swearing to, please get a copy of it from your city clerk and read it. That's what you swore to. And when you're swearing, you're asking all of us to pledge allegiance to the flag. Are you pledging allegiance to the flag with your heart? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands. One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all of us, not just some of us. Know the whole, and please tell the whole truth. Be sure you know all the facts before you start attacking the results of your vote.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Mark Harrier. I am president of the Lompoc Theater Project. And we are living in very interesting times. I don't envy what you guys are going through and the town's trying to deal with it. We have this Proposition 64 that's putting restrictions and maybe restrictions and not, and you guys are trying to wend your way through something that's entirely new. It may be 20 years from now that a pot store will be the same as a liquor store and no one will care. But that's not right now, and that's not going to be next year. So this is going to be charged with emotion, and it's going to remain that way. And in uncharted waters, mistakes are going to be made. But you've supported me in the past very much, and I appreciate that. We at the Lompoc Theater Project will be a youth activity center. We're going to have Saturday matinees. We're going to have after-school programs. It's why I'm passionate about it. It's why I got involved in it. It's why it's in our mission statement. So imagine my relief to find that I'm in a safe zone where pot can't be sold. But one of the acts that I'm looking forward to seeing on my very stage is the Classical Ballet Company. And I guarantee you that the performers on that stage will not be in their 40s or their 50s or their 60s. They're going to be 8 years old, 12 years old, 18 years old. That's what the dance studios in this town are. I think on some level you know that. I took ballet, you clearly maybe haven't, but it's a young person's game. You train at an early age, and by the time you're 25, you're looking at the end of your career. It is the only art form where that's the case. So if anything can be called a youth activity center, it is a ballet class. And so I'm here to support you to keep you from making this monumental mistake, because it's a mistake on two levels. It's a political mistake, because you certainly don't want to campaign in the next campaign in front of a lot of angry mothers and explain to them why their kids don't have their ballet class because you chose pot over a mom and pop store. And it's also a legal mistake, because I'm sure our city attorney does not want to get up with challenged by a lot of LA arts attorneys who will chomp at the bit and line up to work pro bono for this organization to show that it's a mom and pop family-run 51-year-old business that is catering to children. You will not only lose that battle locally, that's the kind of story that winds up in the state. It's the kind of story on CNN where Lompoc becomes, oh, this city council chose pot over a ballet school. The City of Arts and Flowers did not choose art, it chose cannabis. I'm not against cannabis, but there's enough room in the city for both without putting a 51-year business out of business. That's not who you are. You don't want to start this shooting yourself in the foot like this. I know you can aim much higher than that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Council and City. Mark Ashimala. I've been working with this cannabis for 2 years now, so I feel somewhat responsible, and I don't want to attack the dance schools. I think, obviously, our youth programs are very important here in town. We want to coexist. We do want to work with the city, work with the community, regulate. Pot is going to be all around your dance studios. It's going to be, it's already, they're selling it in the alleys. That's what we're trying to take it away from, the illegals, the illegal activity, and make it a storefront that only adults come to. I'm not putting my place next to a dance studio, but again, I feel safe putting mine next to anything, a school. It's going to be where the kids could walk by and they're not going to know it's there. There's no smell coming out. Nothing's creeping out at them and taking them in. It's all for the adults and educating the community and the adults on what's going on. And I applaud you guys for what you've done. I don't think a lot of the community has been following it. There are a lot more pages in Prop 64 than I think the young lady said 65. It's somewhere around 700. It's a very large proposition. There are a lot of details, a lot of things that we have to follow. It's very, very, very strict, much stricter than all the wineries and liquor stores and such, and it's, and it's coming forth that it is going to be a medicinal purpose. There is a medicinal purpose. It's saved lots of lives from heroin addiction and such. Again, we want to work together. I went around and I looked at the 5 dance studios we have, and I think only one really has a chance of being affected, and that's if a cannabis person decides to buy the property next door and build, which that is possible, but not probable. I mean, that's a lot of money to get started. Again, we're hoping to work with the community. We didn't want this to happen. We didn't want the council to get attacked. We didn't want the city to feel attacked. We definitely don't want the dance studios to feel attacked. We want to work with the youth. I plan on providing funding for education for our youth on drugs and alcohol, because it is important to let them we are all made decisions when we were younger. We know that the education is what kept us from, and hard work, obviously, our parents. So I appreciate the time you guys have put in. I'm sorry that some people don't understand completely what's going on, and like I said, I'm all for restrictions and allowing us to work together with the community, because we really don't want this to divide us in half. We have a lot of other issues we got to conquer as a city, so thank you.
Thank you. Any more public comments? Seeing no one else rise, we'll go ahead and close oral communications and move on to public hearings. For item number 5, the adoption of resolution number 615918, reducing water conservation in lieu fee amending program and authorizing supplemental appropriations.
Honorable Mayor, members, council members, and ladies and gentlemen. Tonight I'm going to discuss our water conservation in lieu payment program. It has been referred to before as our water retrofit program. In January 16, 1990s, City Council declared a water shortage. At that time, we were in a drought. We had restrictions and prohibitions on the use of water. In October of 1990, the council adopted an ordinance which put in place a water retrofit program. That program was actually a program that developers came to us. They were trying to stop a potential moratorium on development. The basis of the program was to use conservation measures to offset any new water usage. That program was implemented by a resolution the same year. And the water retrofit program, now we're referring to it as the Water Conservation in Lieu program, has been amended many times. The last amendment was in 2010. Our city has been excellent in terms of conservation. There have been many changes in the building codes, also a lot of plumbing fixtures. So the water usage right now is low. We do have funding, and I'm coming before you with some proposed changes. In 2010, there was a recession, and then on June 1st, 2010, the council suspended the collection of these program fees for 1 year. And then on August 6, 2016, this council suspended collection of these program payments in the Old Town Commercial District from November 9th, 2015, forward to the present and beyond. The city's water conservation program has helped our city meet state-mandated conservation goals. Also, the programs have provided additional water source. The amount of conservation that we have achieved is, especially for Lompoc, remarkable. In 1990, our multiple family use was about 134,640 gallons a year, and single family, that was single family, and multiple was around 108,000. Right now, our combined residential usage is down to 26,928 gallons a year. It's very low. Since 2007-08 through the 2016-17 fiscal year, the city has dispersed almost $500,000 in rebate incentives, water conservation. And as of June 30th, 2017, we do have a net balance of $947,116. Staff is recommending two important changes to the program. The program's current development payments should be changed to reflect our current much reduced water usage. Second, the program is recommended to be expanded to include some other water conservation programs to meet our current customer needs. Staff is recommending that we reduce the program payment for each new residential unit from $2,256 to $726. This is based on our current water rebate programs and a new customer leak repair program, which would be a benefit to the community as well as the entire city. All rebate programs include an administrative charge, and they're based on division cost. The division costs are proposed to be adjusted with the city's master fee schedule with a maximum cap of 5% increase a year. Exhibit A, which will follow, summarizes the payment calculation, method used. It's based on annual gallons saved, rebate program cost, and administrative cost. Again, the average residential usage has decreased substantially to $26,928. We are proposing to give a 60% credit because the effluent that goes to the wastewater treatment plant also recharges our water basin. All other development, which is not residential, would provide 1 year of estimated water usage, and their demand would just be based on 40% of their estimated use. The payment is the project demand, and it's multiplied by 7% of the rebate cost, shown in the next chart. I'm sorry, I apologize, this is a little bit small for you. This chart includes the rebate programs that we're basing the charge on. Clothes washer, toilet rebate, we have eliminated the 3.5 to 1.6 because we have maximized those rebates. This one is just the 1.6 to the 1.28. The new program is the leak detection and repair, which we feel is going to help customers substantially. The maximum rebate amount is $700 for a leak repair. Rain barrels, landscape, and then the calculation at the bottom. Next, we're also proposing a revision to the program features. The program would include non-incentive program options such as prevention, detection, and reduction of leaks in our own water distribution system. That's on the city supply side. Reimbursement of the water division's costs for recycled water. We recently had an approved permit. And reimbursement, partial reimbursement for some of the staff costs associated with the program. And Exhibit B lists these programs. The estimated cost of all these programs is $718,240. This chart lists our objectives, and it also lists the programs which we are recommending funding. The first one would be replacement of water, of about 1/3 of our remaining 60 W ERTs in water with 100 Ws. That gives us quite a bit more information. Leak detection survey and repair of lines at $240,000. The first one was at $251,000. Reimbursement for Santa Barbara County Water Agency contracts, school programs, that's at $30,000. Some assistance, part-time assistance with water conservation at $7,240. Recycled water permit reimbursement, $40,000. Community promotion for conservation, which is $20,000. And then the last one are our rebate programs. We have $100,000, that would be $50,000 a year. If all of this funding was approved, again, the bottom line cost is estimated at $718,240. That would leave $228,876 for future years. And this is assuming that we're not receiving other development costs, which we expect to receive. The existing program and the proposed projects are funded from payments exclusively from new development. No general fund costs are used for this program. And the city's general fund is also a customer of the city's water utility. We've been able to use these program funds to replace and update irrigation system in the city parts. That saved quite a bit of water and cost. Again, as of September 30th, 2017, which is the last monthly cycle that we have figures on, our cost balance in this fund is $935,510, and our current budget for our 2-year budget has $100,000 in there for rebate programs. We're asking, because we do have this money in the account with carryover funds, that we be allowed to spend $718,240. This would mean that the additional $518,240 would have to be approved by council. It would also, again, leave the $227,760 to be carried over. We are anticipating, without additional development costs, that we would still have funding through fiscal years 2022 through 2023. Fiscal impact. The City Council approval is required for the supplemental appropriations of the unbudgeted amount of $518,240 to fund the proposed projects. And also, this would increase the total appropriations in the account to $718,340 for our current budget. Conclusion. The adoption of resolution number 6159/18 will benefit the Lompoc community by revising the program to reflect current residential water usage. It lowers the program payment, and it provides funding for additional water conservation needs. Staff recommends that the City Council adopt resolution 6159/18, which is attached, which reduces the water conservation in lieu payment program, authorizes supplemental appropriations from the program account, and this is a long number, 751 WRC 572-180, and rescinds our current resolution, which is resolution number 5629/10. And I'm available for questions.
Thank you. Does council have any questions for staff? Seeing no questions, I'll open this up for public comment.
I applaud all the work and efforts put forth in California regarding shortages of water and droughts, and it's intermittent, and you really can't plan ahead. What I'd like to see the council do is work with the state and county representatives to increase water storage. I was disappointed that water officials did not fund 11 water storage projects because of fish flows and lack of boating opportunities. We need more water storage. What no one is talking about is that University of Nebraska did a study of the aquifers in Nebraska and California and found nitrate levels in the soil are so high it has caused the naturally occurring uranium to become soluble and leach into the aquifers.
The uranium levels in the water, now, I can't remember the percentages, but it's very high. They don't know how it will affect crops because it's never happened before. It's something new. There are a lot of unknowns. I urge you, in addition to the work that's being done now, to talk with other government agencies and build water storage for Lompoc and the area.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Seeing none, I'll close public comment and reopen it to discussion by council. Any discussion? I'll entertain a motion.
Make motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
And now we'll vote. And that passes 4-0 with 1 in absentia. Item number 6 is new business, direction regarding city properties for possible disposition.
Good evening, council, staff, and audience. My name is Laura Doubles, and I'm the Deputy City Manager. I will be presenting a report to you tonight that goes over a second list of properties that are owned by the city that are being proposed for possible disposition. The first list of properties was presented at the City Council meeting of February 16th, 2016, and was a comprehensive inventory of all city-owned properties that were deemed by staff as having no current use or possible future strategic plans. 5 parcels were decided by council at that time to be marketed and sold. The property located at 110 to 114 South K Street is still currently on the market. Many of the properties on the original list have now been eliminated upon further research by staff after discovering the use restrictions and/or the acquisition agreements that may hinder city disposition. A PowerPoint slide presentation of the properties that remain will be reviewed to give a better idea of the size, location, and appearance of each. The slides are in an order that can be followed with the city properties for possible disposition second list spreadsheet and are grouped according to certain requirements or areas for discussion. The first group of slides from 1 to 6 are properties located in the Cultural Resources Overlay District, which is an area of the city that has been determined by city ordinance to have historic archaeological value based on the presence of the mission, other known archaeological sites, and mission-related uses. This district identifies special development requirements for all properties that are located south of Olive Avenue between V Street and Highway 1. Modifications to existing structures or facilities that require a building permit are also subject to those requirements. These requirements include retaining a qualified archaeologist to conduct a Phase 1 study of the subject property prior to construction, or retaining a qualified archaeologist to monitor all ground disturbing work associated with the proposed project. If the qualified archaeologist makes recommendations for additional investigation or measures necessary, Phase 2 or 3 evaluations, then as development occurs, these measures must be implemented. If evidence of prehistoric artifacts are discovered, the Chumash tribe shall be consulted. An evaluation of the cell pursuant to the California Environmental Quality Act, also known as CEQA, will also need to be done. Full disclosure of the requirements for these properties will have to be made for any sales. They also will need to have their zoning designation changed from open space currently to their adjacent properties designation of low-density residential and 7R1 for single-family residential, 7,000 square feet. As you can see at the bottom of this slide in the red, that is the actual Cultural Resources District overlay for the city of Lompoc. Everything in this area is identified as our overlay district and basically is subject to those requirements. On slide 1, there's 2 lots side by side in a residential area. Both lots are vacant. 510 South F Street is 0.07 acres, and 514 is 0.26 acres, totaling 0.33 acres together. Slide 2, this is a 0.41 acre lot located at 520 South G Street. It is a large vacant lot in a residential area. Slide 3, this is a 0.25 acre lot located at 525 South F Street. It is a vacant lot also in a residential area. Slide 4, this is a 0.41 acre lot located at 539 South F Street. It is a large vacant lot also in a residential area. Slide 5, this is a 0.21 acre lot located at 316 East Locust Avenue. It is a vacant lot in a residential area. And slide 6, this is a 14.69 acre lot that would be split into approximately 3 to 5 acres on the southwest area located at 1200 East Willow Avenue. And this would be as an intergovernmental transfer for cemetery purposes. The next slide displays a city parking lot that was part of a bigger acquisition through redevelopment agency funding, and therefore is subject upon sale to the requirement of negotiating a compensation agreement with the taxing entities involved. These city parking lot properties also carry a requirement for any development that may occur on the lots to provide parking for the surrounding businesses, since the Downtown Overlay District Ordinance, adopted in 1993, allowed for commercial businesses with no parking requirements, since parking was made available to the public by way of these parking lots. Past appraisals have suggested that the highest and best use of the properties would be commercial development. Past history has shown that there have been several documented development proposals made over the last 25 years, most of which have been large hotel proposals. This is a 0.24 acre lot that would be split into approximately 0.11 acres as a suggestion in order to possibly make development in the area more attractive. It is located at 127 South I Street, and it is part of the city parking lots in the old downtown area. As I mentioned, that was a suggestion to further possibly development in that area. But at this time, staff recommends removing this parcel from the list and waiting for possibly a bigger development opportunity for the area. This last slide is a parcel that is currently being leased to 2 tenants, and it is a 0.64 acre lot located at 428 North I Street. Staff is asking for direction not only on the properties we have reviewed tonight, but also for the property currently on the market at 110-114 South K Street as well. Whether to continue with the listing that would require renewal of the city's real estate professional contract for another year, or remove the property from the market. That concludes my presentation, and I am available to answer any questions the council may have. Thank you.
Councilman Starbuck.
City Attorney, because I have real property around some of these, would I need to recuse?
For the discussion of the properties within 500 feet of yours, yes.
Okay, before I recuse myself, then I would like to go ahead and address the 1200 East Willow and all of the properties on F and G Street. Attending the Planning Commission meetings, it was very educational because most of the people that showed up to oppose the sale of these properties were previous owners of the properties. These properties were bought with a state grant, I recall.
Yes.
For historical preservation. And there's a pretty good pedigree on these. And they're really, in the sense of development, never going to happen, I don't think, because of the pedigree and the purpose that they were acquired. I would recommend pulling these because that's just opening Pandora's box and nightmares. Keep mowing them, I would suggest. Excuse me. The other property that I'd like to speak of here would be the lot split. And I will divulge again that having talked with several people on the cemetery board, which my dad sits on the cemetery board, they have been working with the city for quite a while on determining whether they could acquire some of this property to build a memorial park for cremation walls, et cetera, up there. The property is absolutely valueless to the city. It's unmaintained and really has absolutely no use, whereas the cemetery in 30 or 40 years from now would have a use and it would be continuous with that property. So I would really like to propose to the council to remove all the old mission properties and then continue on with the lot split with the cemetery district for the very back of Beatty Park. And if there's further discussion on any of the other properties, I will recuse.
City Attorney, would it be appropriate to ask council if they would be willing to split the discussion into the two sections?
That's certainly a good approach.
Do I have council support to split the discussion between the properties that Councilman Sturbuck would need to recuse himself from and the other properties so that we could complete that discussion and then he could recuse himself for the second part of that? Okay, great. So let's continue the discussion started by Councilmember Starbuck regarding the mentioned parcels that he has stated. Any other comments, feedback, questions for staff regarding these parcels? Councilmember
Mayor
Vega.
Pro Tem, remember you need public comment too.
Mr. Starbuck, Councilman Starbuck, could you please elaborate just a little bit more here, or maybe Ms. Doubles, on the lot split for the cemetery?
Sure.
And how this plays a part within this property discussion?
Right, okay. So that is actually located on the southwest area of Beatty Park. It's on a grade of a hill. There's basically not really an option to develop because of that grade, as well as we also have a county flood channel that comes down from the mountain in that area that would also have to be reserved as an easement. So the only reason we would be looking to even lot split this is because the cemetery district is another governmental agency, and entity, I should say, and we would be able to actually lot split that off. We would retain the rest of the park as well as the water tank and all of the water utility pipes and all of that. We would be able to lot split that portion off and actually give it as a transfer to the cemetery district for their further purposes in future years for that.
And there is another plan here for a wall, so to speak. Is that on the same parcel?
Yes, but that would actually be, the whole cemetery district would be the one that would be putting that memorial wall or whatever
Back to the memorial wall, yes.
Yeah.
To be clear, yeah,
Yeah.
sorry. Don't mean to say the wall.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was already proposed, and that's something that can be done very easily?
That would be something that the cemetery board would actually be designing and going through all of the requirements for what they would need to do as far as that wall is concerned. So I couldn't tell you like right now that that would be, you know, feasible or whatever, but they would pursue that as their district.
I got you, but the lot split could be facilitated by them?
Yes.
Handed over and a transfer that property to the cemetery district? Is
That's
that
right.
the best use that we can see so far?
Right now it is, because the grade of the property as well as the channel for the flood, or for the county flood control district, they would need to reserve that as an easement. So there's really no ability to develop in that area at all. And right now it's not being used even as part of the park. The rest of the whole area in the front has the park ranger as well as the disc golf, and the rest of the park, that's all going to be preserved. That's going to remain.
Gotcha.
It's just this part that's up kind of on a grade of a hill that's closer to the cemetery district property that they would be able to utilize for future growth.
Sure. No, I got you.
Mayor Pro Tem, just so that we're clear on the record, we would do some analysis, whether it's an appraisal or a broker's opinion or something, to be sure that if it has any value, we wouldn't be giving it away for free. We'd have to not give it away, but sell it. If it has no value, then we could give it away for free, but we need to do that analysis.
Yeah, thank you for clarifying. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any more questions for staff before I open to public comment? Okay. The public comment period is now open for the first 6 parcels we've been discussing. So it's all of the area that is in the cultural reserve area and the cemetery property. So if anyone wishes to speak, please come forward. You have 3 minutes.
Nicholas Gonzalez, resident of Lompoc. I would probably concur with what's on the table in discussion now. Although initially I had made comment in previous council meetings regarding how the sales and the purpose originally was, and that was to backfill budget deficit. So in this discussion, there needs to be acknowledgement of what's been removed and what's taken out and what gap that's going to leave for that budgetary process. And as I stated at a previous council, it's time to start looking at the budget as a real budget and not using the one-time sale of assets as a backfill of that budget. And if you're going to remove the properties, then I think that you need to make another meeting to address how you're going to address that budget shortfall. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Veronica Bradway, resident of Lompoc, and I wanted to speak today in particular to the 1200 East Willow property, which is that piece of cemetery split. And I guess my main concern is the loss of open space, because that parcel is used quite a bit by the residents of Lompoc. I also wanted to just clarify that there is no agreement between the property owners that kind of are across that flood channel. Currently, there's no way to drive a car or get from the current cemetery to this lot split. So my concern is if the cemetery is going to access that property through an interdepartmental transfer, how does that affect the flood channel? How does that affect how are people going to get from the current cemetery to this new memorial wall? Are there new roads being built? Is there a bridge to connect the two? Are people going to use the access that exists at Beatty Park? Also, I just wanted to mention, property values declining, the loss of that open space. Again, there's a little walking path that goes from the end of Clemens kind of down through that flood channel back up to Beatty Park. I would assume that from the amount of people that use that every day, they would be upset if it turned into a memorial wall that you then have to pass when you're walking your dog, having a barbecue at the existing pits that are already at the park. So I just wanted to say I kind of oppose that split without further investigation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any more public comment on this list of parcels? Seeing none, I'll return discussion to council. Ms. Doubles, could you clarify for us that, A, whether or not these properties were considered as part of the budget discussion and whether it was balanced on potential sales of these? And then secondly, that it would be part of the negotiation with the transfer for the cemetery for them to negotiate within the county and us as to access that the resident was concerned about regarding access to different areas.
Right. So the first question, yes, it was part of our budget. We have since realized that that was not going to actually occur in this cycle. So that's why we're coming back, because right now, the ability to actually get the amount of money that was projected is not within reason. And so we do have to find an alternate way of funding that. The second question is, we do have an access road that goes up towards that area. And that would be actually for, the meantime, that would be the access to that memorial wall. As I said, that area actually is not utilized at all as park area. Nobody's authorized to be up in that area right now because it is not a walking path or anything like. It has a gate that's actually in front of it that prevents people from walking up into that region of it. So all I can say is that would actually be, if we pursued it, we would actually work with the cemetery to see what their development plan was for that. And of course, they would have to meet certain, criteria for access in that area.
Thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
Councilmember Vega.
Laura, as a budgetary item, I think that we've proven through potential sales and the efforts of trying to sell these properties that they're not meeting the price point that was actually expected.
That's correct.
To meet this budget deficit. And I believe with the budget deficit, it was in excess of $400,000, I believe, for the sale of properties, okay?
That's correct.
I don't have the exact number, but I believe it's in the $400,000 range, right?
Yes.
So I think what's happened here, because of the zone requests and changes of all the inquiries from people that have come in with potential interest to these properties, it would require so much staff time, and it would actually require a zoning change, and a lot of it with the cultural, what are we going to call this here?
Resources Overlay District,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, you got it, the cultural resource zone, okay. Reserve. I think it's just not cost-effective to use this as an infill part to the budget deficit.
Right.
So I basically would actually probably concur with Councilman Starbuck that these should probably be pulled off the market, and then I'd like to make a motion if there's no other public comment, that we actually pull all the properties that are in the cultural reserve zone here and pull those out, and then put aside this property that's on 1200 East Willow for further evaluation, and then we can do our part there. So based on this part that you're involved in, as far as the discussion of the sale of properties.
I would give you a second on that if that was a motion.
That was a motion, yes, sir.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Do I have any additional discussion regarding that motion? Seeing none, we should go ahead and vote on that. And that passes 4-0-1 with one in absentia. Now we will move to discussing the sections that I believe you need to recuse.
I will go ahead and recuse because I own real property within 500 feet of both of these parcels.
Thank you. All right, any questions for staff regarding parcel 127 South I Street or 421-28 North I Street? Councilmember Mosby.
428 North I is leased currently?
Yes, it is.
Is there any desire by the people who are leasing to purchase these?
I have not reached out to them to ask them yet.
Okay. Is there, what's the motivation for us to keep these properties?
Honestly, there is no motivation to. Our mission is not to be a landlord. We're utilities and public safety, so we don't try to be a landlord and lease properties, but these two have been a long-term lease, and so we're still in it. We do have the ability to sell this property if we wanted to, and I could certainly reach out to, you know, the one that's leasing the bigger building on it to see if they would want to. The other one is a train group that I don't foresee that they would want to purchase the property. They're just leasing the building that's kind of off to the side on that.
And how long the leases are sitting
on? You mean how much more do they have?
Yes.
You know, I have not checked that. I could bring that back if you need me to.
Yeah, thanks.
Councilmember Vega.
Laura, these properties there, the lease is for what purpose? The one that's actually being leased?
They're both being leased. One is the CAC, and they provide, I believe, what is it? Daycare, I believe.
Yeah, youth daycare.
Head Start.
Sorry.
It's Head Start.
Okay,
Head Start program, yeah.
Thank you.
So they're actually a use, and that is revenue generating for the city. Is that correct? Even if it's at a discount?
No, not for the city.
It's not.
The CAC is I believe it's a nonprofit, right, Brad? Is that right?
So the lease, the lease of the land is for
If I
free?
may, yeah, the revenue we get from that lease goes to the general fund, and I believe it's around $12,000 a year. I could be wrong with that number, but it's
I was
So
thinking
there is
it
money.
was about $1,600 a month, so yes, that lease revenue is revenue to the general fund. As far as what they make on their daycare facility, that's not part of the revenue that we get.
Yeah, I guess my point is it's paying for its own maintenance costs. I mean, whatever they are. It's not just a vacant piece of land that's undeveloped, just sitting there
Right,
collecting, and
that's
somebody else
correct.
is
Yeah.
maintaining it. Even the vacant side of that, is that being maintained, or is that by the city, or what?
They are maintaining it. Most of it, I believe, is asphalt in that area. It was kind of an old train track area, I believe, in that. But yeah, there's not a whole lot of maintenance involved, but it seems like they do keep up on all of that.
I think the city's going to be involved as being a landlord no matter what. So to say we're not in the landlord business, we want to be in the leasing part of it, I think is going to be something that is going to be forever.
There's certain
Okay.
ones that we do lease, you know, we also have that with our museum and art gallery, so it's not unusual for us to be in it. It's just we try not to be in it.
I know we have to go to public comment, but I did want to say that, again, I don't see where this is going to fill a budget deficit.
Yes.
Because we're making money and it is paying for its own maintenance costs. I don't think there's a dire need for it to be put on the market unless there's another use for that other parcel that we haven't explored yet, to see that the city might actually help other people, or maybe possibly the CAC,
Right.
being that it's a nonprofit.
Regarding the lot split consideration for 127 South I Street and staff recommendation not to move forward at the moment, I also would like to remind staff that that was the parcel discussed at one time of improving the bus interchange area by having a restroom, public restroom built on that to accommodate Old Town. So I think not moving forward on that right away would be a good idea, simply because we haven't finished examining ways to fund that and provide that, because that is vital to Old Town, is to have a permanent public restroom facility in the area.
And that's exactly why we decided not to do that.
Any more questions of staff before I open to public comment? Okay, we'll take public comment on this.
Nicholas Gonzalez, Lompoc resident. I would agree that you should not sell the land that's generating an income. If anything, you can revisit the leases in the future and adjust them appropriately to bring in more revenue. I'm more in favor of eating the egg and not the chicken. Thank you.
Any more public comment regarding these two parcels? Seeing none, I will return it to council, and if there's no further discussion, take a motion.
I'd like to make a motion that we take these properties that we're discussing here on I Street and remove them from off the market and look for other ways to fill our budget deficit that would be a little bit more consistent with the market. This market at this time does not support the prices that were projected that we could obtain with the sale of these properties. So I think it's more prudent for the city to hold off. Let's take a look. I think Mayor Pro Tem Osborne has an excellent point that we haven't explored everything that we can do with some of those properties, and it may be used for restrooms or some other project that might be more viable to the public, which we need. We absolutely need these. So my motion would be, let's remove all these properties from the market. Let's not move forward with our current contract with the real estate person that was hired by the city, and just take another look at it at another time.
City Attorney, before I provide a second, is wrapping the removal of the property on the market viable for this motion? Because Councilman Starbuck should still recuse himself from that discussion, or should it be taken separately?
I would suggest you let Councilman Starbuck back in to vote on the renewal.
Okay.
So if you'll amend your motion.
Sure, I'd like to amend the motion to remove this property, which is the one that doesn't include Councilman Starbuck, and let's take this one off the market at this time. Would you like it in a separate motion, or would you like to clarify that?
So to understand, you're making a motion to remove the two properties we've been discussing from the list that would go to market, and we will separate the discussion for the contract when Councilmember Starbuck returns.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
So let's remove these two properties off the market. Yes.
Okay, I will give you a second on that. Any other discussion before we take a vote? All right, let's vote. That passes 3-0 with 2, 1 recused and 1 in absentia. And Councilmember Starbuck may return to the dais. Ms. Doubles, will you wrap up the discussion regarding our final item on this matter?
Okay, so we currently do have a contract with Debbie McComb from Central Coast Realty Group, and her agreement is due to expire on April 30th. So if we choose to remove the current parcel that's on the market right now at 110, 114 South K, then we would actually no longer need her services, so we would not renew that contract. If you want to have that property remain on the market, then we would need to go ahead and renew her contract, but it would be for a full another year at that point.
Any questions for staff? All right, we'll take public comment for this. Seeing no one rise, I'll return it to council and either continue discussion or take a motion. Councilmember Vega.
I'd like to go ahead and make that motion again now that we're Councilman Starbuck here. And Councilman Starbuck, what we're doing is we're taking a vote here to remove 110 and 114 South K off the market and not to renew the contract with Central Coast Realty Group at this time. That would be my motion.
Just real quick, walking in here at the end. Now, these were the last two of the original properties that we had on the market.
That's correct. It's 2 parcels, so it's one property.
Right, and I understand. Now I know where we're at, and I'll give you a second on that.
Thank you.
I have a motion and a second. Do I have any other discussion regarding this matter? All right, I'll take a vote. And that passes 3-1-1, 3 in favor, 1 against, and 1 in absentia.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so City Clerk, do we have any written communications?
Nothing more than you've already received.
Thank you. I will again open the floor for oral communications on any subject either discussed this evening or of a city matter to be presented before council. At this time, it is 2 minutes maximum. Floor is open if there is anyone who has a public comment. Seeing no one rise, I will close that and we'll move to council requests, comments, and meeting reports. Councilmember Mosey?
I attended the sub-regional meeting of SBCAG representing the city, and nothing else to report.
Thank you. Councilmember Starbuck.
I have no reports, but I have a comment. I'm sure that everybody that's here and listening and all has been pretty much aware of what's been going on down at Highway 1 and 246. With the Vintners Festival across the bridge and Spring Arts and every other thing we've got going on, I mean, what is the city doing on this intersection with all the trash that has been left?
City Manager?
Yes, Chief Walsh is going to give a little update on that. He's been very actively involved.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Starbuck, for bringing that up. So it took a while to figure out who owns the property. There's 3 different pieces of property there. Caltrans, a private corporation, owns most of it. So we figured that out. We found the corporation that owns it. They signed an agreement with us so that we, the police, can act as their agents to trespass people off of the property. So last night we found the lady that lives there. She's severely mentally ill, and we've been in contact with her caseworker. Well, I wouldn't say caseworker, but actually one of the caseworkers in the room. A couple of people are working with her. So we've given her 72 hours, and she's agreed to allow a civic organization to come in and help move her stuff out. So she's going to, all of that stuff's going to be gone Thursday. And then the fire department is working on getting the owner of the property come mow the weeds down and probably clean that whole area up so it doesn't offer a place for somebody else to set up camp. But she's going to set up somewhere else. We're trying to find her some kind of housing, but she's pretty difficult. So that's where we're at.
Thank you, Chief.
Okay.
Anything else? Councilmember Vega?
Nothing really to report, but again, we have the Spring Fest and we have the Vintners Festival this weekend, so it's going to be some traffic this weekend here in town. You know, I see the carnival being set up, and I'm hoping everybody will be safe and sound. And I would like to bring up a discussion here. Someone brought in public comment. Maybe the chief can either do a little presentation or at least just come up and elaborate. Some people in public comment did ask about the sanctuary city thing, and it would be nice to hear from the chief what he thinks, what would be the difference here in Lompoc, okay, and what are their restraints? Because I think it's important that we at least address it since people did bring it up.
So nothing's really changed for Lompoc Police Department. We never have asked anybody's status as a citizen. That's not our job, and we aren't, by law, we don't have that authority. We're not federal agents. When we arrest somebody and they come into our custody, we fingerprint them, and that sends that person's identity out into all of the law enforcement database. And if there's a wanted felon by ICE agents, they contact us and they say that person's ours. And and so what we do is most of the time those people are transported back to Santa Barbara County Jail. We can only hold them for a maximum of 96 hours. So we don't work, really ICE doesn't come to us and pick people up out of our jail. They normally pick them up out of Santa Barbara County's jail. So we haven't had the opportunity to really have this new law affect us yet. It will, though, I'm sure of it. But I've gotten a lot of phone calls. Whenever ICE is in town, my phone rings. And so I have a pretty good relationship with ICE, and I'll call them and say, hey, what are you doing in Lompoc? And they'll give me the list of people they're looking for, and it's always very violent felons that they're here looking for. And you know, when you talk to the community, they want those felons out of the neighborhood. So so far it really hasn't affected us. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, I just wanted to get a little gist on how important, if that was going to be something that's going to be turning you guys around or put some additional stress on you guys.
Yeah, there's a couple different ways that ICE can hold somebody. And in the old days, they would say, hey, can you hold on to that person until we can get there? And so some jurisdictions were holding them past when they normally would get out. So if we arrest somebody for drunk driving, we hold them 6 hours so they can sober up, and then out the door they go with a citation. But if we held past the 6 hours waiting for ICE to come in, that would be a violation, and we're not going to do that because we don't want to be on CNN.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I have one more a request here. Not for you, Chief, but I got you. Thank you. As far as the cannabis operation, you know, just for transparency, you know, we're getting applications, and I think that's probably prudent to be updated a little bit more often than not, and get caught off guard, you know, by locations and people that are being approved and how many applications are going, you know, as far as locations in the city that proposed businesses are coming into. So I'm not sure if there's another mechanism from which that we can be informed about the plan of where they're planning on opening businesses, just like any other economic development type of business.
Sure, once,
I'm not sure if that's something you want to keep.
We can look into it and kind of get back to you on when the next phases would be, to kind of give you an update. You know, when somebody gets a license, and then maybe once they apply to planning and building. Those are typical reporting junctures and things like that.
Thank you. That would be good enough. Thank you very much.
I attended the Economic Development Committee and Utility Committee meetings based on council rotations. I also attended University of Southern California's public policy workshop on behalf of the city. The city paid for the hotel and gas for my attendance. And then I also represented the city as mayor pro tem at the Vandenberg Air Force Base solar array ribbon cutting. And then finally, as a representative of the city of Lompoc on Home for Good, I participated in the discussion of plans for the riverbed cleanup, and hopefully the organization will be able to come forward along with our police chief and give you an update at a future date. So that is moving forward, and we're looking at it aggressively, knowing that this is impacting our community daily now. And not only is our police chief aware of it, but so are all of the cooperating entities, and they're looking at ways to try and plan this thoroughly so that it doesn't have an impact on our community by driving them into town, and we do this in a fair manner and respectful of those and the rights that the homeless do have. So I just wanted to give an update on that. And then finally, thank you to city staff and city manager for organizing and presenting a State of the City address that really showed what we have in store and what successes we have while still dealing with some of our issues that are coming up. If I have no other comments from council, I will adjourn the meeting until our regular meeting at 6:30 p.m. on May 1st, 2018.